With regard to the issue of communication, I firmly believe that the fact that DNR has angered more rural people, more people in the state than any other division of state government. That is not to say that there aren't good people working at DNR, but the mission of DNR has not been served, and people around the state are angry about it, and it has created lots of problems around CAFOs across Missouri. We are trying to address these issues in a number of different ways. The AG's office is in with regard to CAFOs specifically. There's the problem here in northwest Missouri. There's also the problem in Saline County around Arrow Rock. How many are familiar with the Arrow Rock issue? The Kansas City Star editorializes against my office on a weekly basis with regard to the Arrow Rock situation, and claims that the Attorney General's office is in the pocket of big agriculture, that we're owned by BSF and Cargill and other big ag concerns. The newspapers in this area over the last 2 months have editorialized against the office that we're in the pockets of the environmentalists. We are truly trying to take a balanced approach to these things and to weigh the issues intelligently. That is what we are trying to do in this process. I believe the Premium Standard Farm can get Scraper Digester through the expert panel. That, I repeat for the 5th time tonight, is a critical next step in this juncture, and it needs to happen as soon as possible. I don't think that I answered.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Mike Wright. I work for PSF, and I have 2 questions. The first, if the expert panel determines that by July 2010, PSF has not made substantial progress towards eliminating the odor problem portion of the state consent decree, then can you elaborate, has the state considered what pressures that you would consider bringing against PSF in order to force that? Can you elaborate on that? And I have another question after that.
Yes. The fundamental question that we're addressing is what happens on August 1st, 2006. The negotiation becomes substantially easier if the expert panel blesses Scraper Digester. If they do not, the 3 options would be to file a lawsuit and put pressure on PSF to move forward with an implementation process on the Scraper Digester system. Theoretically, to do what I believe is at some level the opinion in the room, which is that the contract should be torn up and thrown away, and that nothing should happen after this period of time. Or the third is simply to continue in this open-ended process that we have been in over the last 11 years.
Well, I think we can agree that the last 2 options really aren't viable because, as you pointed out, the property rights have to be balanced against the concerns of the community and our livelihood here in northern Missouri. So, if you bring a lawsuit against PSF, what I'm wondering is there's so much hyperbole in the press around here, either from Kansas City, against you, or here in local press. What we hear is that PSF is going to shut down in August if we don't get an extension. I find it hard to believe. I would think that it would be more likely that PSF would be fined, or, as you said, a lawsuit, or what other options are there? I mean, the state can't just come in and say, we're going to shut you down. Can they do that?
Theoretically, they could, but it is not our intent to do that. The intent of, if the lawsuit option occurs on August 1st, the request that would be made of the court is that the consent decree be enforced and that financial penalties are put in place to the extent that the decree is not enforced. But it would not be a prayer to the court to close Premium Standard Farm.
Okay, that answers my first question. The second question is related to that, it's correlated. If the expert panel finds that substantial progress has been made with the scraper digester system in eliminating the odor problem portion of the consent decree by, say, June of 2010, they say they pass their blessing on it, the state will then consider giving an extension in order to fully implement this technology? And if so, what length of extension are we talking? 2 years, 5 years, 4 years, what?
If Premium Standard Farm does what I think is reasonable, which is to move scraper digester through the system quickly, then the state will be reasonable in return, I can assure you that. And a judicial order would probably be put in place as part of a lawsuit that put a reasonable schedule for implementation in for the scraper digester that would, I mean, everybody has some sense of how the legal system works, and they know that it takes a long time. A lawsuit that is filed on August 1st, 2010 probably is not completed until the end of 2012. A lawsuit that is just an outright fight goes 2.5 years. If Premium Standard Farm takes reasonable steps, moves the scraper digester through, receives the blessing of the expert panel, and that is adjudged next generation technology, then as part of a settlement of the lawsuit, I would assume that an expedited implementation of scraper digester would be on the table for discussion. If I could ask this question.
It's also